Before I start the video off, I just want to say that this is probably going to be quite a long video. I'm not planning on putting any music behind any of this, so I think it's just going to be me talking the whole time. So if you've never seen me before, my name is Cameron. I've been doing YouTube for a few years now, but I just wanted to do a video that kind of explains how I got to where I am now. And also because there's a lot of changes that are going on at the moment, so I wanted to kind of make some kind of video to explain what's going to be happening going forward. There's going to be some parts of this video that are kind of dark in the subjects that I'm talking about, so I guess that's kind of a warning to people that might get easily triggered by that kind of thing. So I'm going to start this by going all the way back to when I was a kid. So growing up, I always liked playing video games. When I was in the younger years at school, me and my friends that I would hang out with at the time would create like storylines in our heads, and one of my friends even wrote a whole story that then was handed out to a load of people in school so that they could play different parts in the story. And some of these stories that we would create would go on not just for that day, it would carry on for the weeks that we were at school. And yeah, there was a bit of criticism with certain people in school, but you're always going to get that. But it was something that we could just be free and creative with for the most part anyway. And that's my first kind of memory of being able to just create a story and be creative with friends. When I got home from school, I'd quite often either be on my DS or my Nintendo Wii at the time. That makes me feel really old saying that. I'd play games like Mario Kart Wii, I'd play Lego Star Wars, I was really into Skylanders at one point, and Wii Sports, all that kind of thing. Throughout the next few years, I'd get a tablet, I'd get a Wii U, I got a laptop as well, and then going into high school, I'd get an Xbox 360. I think I was in like year 8 at the time when I got my first Xbox. When I'd be on my tablet, that was the first time that I'd watch anything YouTube related. Quite often I'd be watching like Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, Tobuscus. I'd started getting into Vanos gaming a little bit as well. I remember quite a lot of the time when I was just sat on the settee at my dad's, I'd just watch Happy Wheels videos. To me, that was like top tier back in the day. And to be honest, they probably would still be really good now. I've not watched them in ages. I'd also play quite a few games on my tablet that were related to dragons. You know, like the Dragon City sort of stuff, but back then it wasn't Dragon City, it was like an older version of whatever it was called. Basically the kind of games where you'd have like these dragon eggs and you'd have to incubate them and then eventually they'd hatch into blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. I'm sure you've played the games before. Well, one of the dragons that stuck out to me the most when I was playing one of those games was the lava dragon. Even though it was one of the dragons that you'd get like right at the start of the game that is never going to be any good by the time you've got further into the game, it was one that just stood out to me and I thought, oh, that looks really cool. Now going into 2015, which is when I got my first Xbox, obviously you have to go through the process of creating a name and setting everything up, and I wanted my gamer tag to just be Lava Dragon, but I'm guessing that someone had already had that name, so it was coming up with Lava Dragon and then numbers at the end of it. So from that point on I became Lava Dragon 15 because it was 2015 when I got the Xbox, and that opened up a whole new world of games for me that I'd never had a chance to play before because I was mostly just Nintendo based. I remember my uncle got me GTA 5, that was a big thing because I really wanted GTA at the time. I'd play Black Ops 2, further down the line I'd start playing Fortnite, and still sometimes do, but not as much as I used to. And that Xbox 360, and then later on Xbox One after like a year or two, was one of the main reasons why I ended up being such good friends with George, aka GrogTV for pretty much everyone else that knows me. Because me and George met through a mutual friend at the time that was in our just general friend group. So George was in this guy's form tutor, I think, and then I met George through him. But I remember one time we were on GTA and it was one of the I don't know if it was one of the first times that I'd spoken to George, but it was the first time I got the opportunity to talk to him just on his own. And our friend was going to bed. It was probably like 2 a.m. or something like that, and me and George didn't want to go to sleep yet, so we'd kind of been put in this situation where we were just almost forced to talk to each other in a way. And then from that point on we've just always played games with each other for the most part. It's mad to say that that was like 10 years ago. 2015 was also the year that I created my first YouTube channel. At the time, I think I'd just called it The Lava Dragon. I'm sure I can probably find some screenshots of it somewhere. If I can, then I will probably put them on screen now. I remember the logo for it used to have lightning on it. I think it was at one point like a dark blue with a bluish lightning, and then it was white with a yellow lightning, I think. And when I first started that channel, I was uploading every now and again, but it wasn't through my laptop or through anything Nintendo related or my Xbox. It was actually through my phone. I still needed to get an Elgato for my Xbox, and there wasn't really any way for me to record anything else, so the easiest way to do it was through my phone. That whole period of time is very nostalgic when I look back at it now. I'd be playing games like Earn to Die, and when FNAF 4 came out, I actually started playing it on my phone when I was on holiday in Menorca. I remember I downloaded it, I think it was when I was on holiday, and then I would record the first 2 nights of that game. I'd just be on my phone, just sat on my bed, thinking, oh no, hopefully no one comes in and is like, what are you doing on your phone and this and that, and then it ruins the recording. Because back then I don't think I edited anything. I think it was just you press play and then just go with what happens. There was also a Marvel game that I would play that was kind of like the Dragon City sort of things, but with Marvel characters where they were in crystals, and I can't remember what it was called. I don't think it's actually a game anymore. But then something happened that completely flipped everything on its head, because people at school started finding out that I was doing YouTube. And at the time I was a lot quieter and a lot shyer than I am now. So when they found all of that out, I was thinking, oh no. And it actually put me off wanting to do more content, and I ended up deleting everything that I'd made. If you end up going back to that channel now, which I think is the one archive channel that I don't use anymore, you'll see that there is no games that are mobile related because they're all gone. I wish I'd have just unlisted them instead of deleted them, but I don't think I really cared at the time. It would be nice to look back on it now though, to see just what it was actually like, because I bet it was shocking. So once I deleted all of those videos, I then kind of told myself, yeah, I'm not going to do YouTube until after school, because it just made class and the people that I was around just really awkward at times to be around. Eventually I managed to save up for an Elgato, and it's actually the one that I still use now. I probably need to get a new one, because that would have been back in 2017, 2016-ish. I remember I plugged it all into the TV that was at my dad's at the time, because I had my Xbox in my room at my dad's, and I hooked it up to my laptop at the time, and I tried recording on it, and it was laggy as hell. I was thinking, what's going on? The Xbox is fine, the Elgato is all good, and it was because of my laptop. By that point, I'd had my laptop, must have been for at least a couple of years, and it just wasn't built for being able to record stuff. So whenever I press record, it wouldn't be able to run it. Safe to say I wasn't very happy about that, but I knew that it meant that I needed to save up again, this time for a gaming PC. Something that I knew would definitely be able to run it, and that could run a load of other things if I needed to have it run those things. So on and off throughout the next few years, I would start saving up for a gaming PC. I think I'd start digging into the money every now and again just for stuff like a Nintendo Switch, or if there was anything else that I wanted at the time. As it was getting towards Christmas 2019, this was when I was in my last year of college, I was very close to being able to get what I wanted. I think I was just over halfway in terms of the amount of money that I needed to save, or that I thought I needed to save. So I was saying to my dad, can you help me out with the rest of the money so that it can go towards a Christmas present? And he was like, yeah, okay, we can sort that out. So when it got to Christmas 2019, that was when I got my gaming PC, and that is the one I'm still using right now. I think by this point in time, I'd moved my Xbox, because I'd got an Xbox One by this point. I think I'd moved both my 360 and my Xbox One to here, and for a while I'd have it underneath my desk, and it was connected to the gaming PC through the Elgato. And then if I ever needed to do stuff on Switch or whatever, I'd just switch over the HDMI. So I'd got everything set up, and in February 2020 was when I first started, I guess, this run, or the start of this run of uploads. It felt so good just being able to record whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and knowing that it's something that I wanted to do when I was a kid, but just never actually could get to the point of being able to do that. But back in 2020, it was shocking. My mic was potentially the worst mic in the history of mics. I can't even remember what it was, but it wasn't good. And when it came to editing anything, or I think it was mostly when it's exporting from the editor to the main video, whenever the mic would peak, it would create a horrible scratching sound. If you go back to the really old ones, again on that one archive channel because I think I've still got them all on there as public. It was bad. My mic was a lot quieter than other people's were. It would peak and it would be horrible. And I probably will show you a clip of it. Sorry in advance.
You're gonna get it? No! No! No!
So yeah, it wasn't good. I think it was also partially down to what I would use to edit, because I use something called OpenShot. And granted, it is not the best, but I've kind of learnt to use it over the years. I should probably move to a different editing software, to be fair. But it will sometimes have those things of like, if the volume's too high and it peaks, it just creates a horrible scratchy sound. I get it sometimes with George's mic if he's suddenly been really loud. Now that I've got this mic, which is the Elgato Wave 3, and Will's got the same mic as me, I never get it with mine or Will's mic, but sometimes George's will do it. So yeah, those first few months were interesting to say the least, but where it was about to go was something that I didn't even think would be possible. Towards the end of 2020, I started doing not only gaming related stuff, but also reaction related stuff. Because over the few years when I was at college and around that time before I'd actually got a gaming PC, I was quite into watching all the reacts content, and it was actually a lot bigger then, I think, than it is now. So I'd be watching like No Life Shack and Fail Whale and a few other people, and it looked like it was a really fun thing to do. And seeing as I was into certain shows at the time, I started doing reactions to Walking Dead. I did do a couple for Invincible as well, but I never actually got round to finishing that show. I noticed though that the views for reaction content was more than gaming content. And then going into, I think it was the start of 2021, or it might have been the end of 2020, either or, something happened with a company called Skybound that was really cool to me at the time. And to be honest, it's still really cool now, just looking back at it. So Skybound, their YouTube channel, at the time they had an editor that would create like reaction compilations of a ton of people that had made reactions to The Walking Dead. And some of their videos got millions of views. It was crazy, some of the ones. So they'd take clips from other people's videos and then use it as a way to boost them and also bring attention to their show as well. And this is a thing that not only people who were fans of Walking Dead watched, but who were fans of other games and other series that were connected with the Skybound label, and also some of the actors and actresses that are in the shows. So one day I was watching one of the compilations. I remember checking the link to see who was in it for this one, and I saw that my name was in it. I remember thinking, whoa, that's mad. And I think I was only in some of them, it must have been like 5, I think, that I was in total. It wasn't a lot, it was a very short period of time, but it was cool when it did happen. And later on, I think it was for the season 10 finale, I saw this thing on Twitter that was, I think, originally from Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who's the guy that plays Negan, and it was him tagging in the YouTube video that was the reaction compilation from Skybound, and he'd said something like, oh, these reactions are so cool and something like that. And then Norman Reedus replied to it. If you don't know who Norman Reedus is, he's the guy who plays Daryl. He's also been in Death Stranding and a few other things as well. So I was reading this and I was thinking, whoa, that means that they've watched a bit of content that had me in it, which is just surreal. And granted, it would have been for like, I don't know, 3 clips worth, and it would have been probably pretty quick, but it was still a really cool moment. And it's potentially probably one of the biggest things that has happened in the YouTube journey I've been on so far. So now it's around mid-2021 and I'm still focusing more on reaction content than anything else. But I knew that I still wanted to make gaming related content. It was just that it wasn't going to work on this channel anymore because I'd kind of built it up to be more reaction based. So at the time I thought it was a better idea to make a couple more channels that are separate from the reaction one and then kind of build that up as its own separate thing. So the main channel then became Lava Dragon Reacts. There was a Lava Dragon Gaming channel, which is now my main one, which is this one. That's why even though the name is Lava Dragon, the @ is still Lava Dragon Gaming because I can't actually change it to just Lava Dragon now. And I created another channel that was called Lava Dragon FIFA that was related to just simulated FIFA matches because that was something that I was really into watching at the time. And it stayed that way with the 3 channels and me trying to juggle the 3 of them until around February 2022. And then I made a shorts channel, so I now had 4 channels. The reason why I made a shorts channel was because I wanted to see how that whole side of YouTube works. And also, at the time, it didn't have its own separate tab on your channel. So whenever you would make shorts, it would be in the same section as all of your long form vids. And that was something that I didn't want to see on my channel because it just looked horrible. So I thought that it was the best option to just make my own shorts channel just dedicated to that and see what happens with it. So now I've got a React channel, a gaming channel, a FIFA channel, and a shorts channel. And although it felt like the best thing to do at the time, it was very quickly becoming something that would just hinder my ability to actually grow on anything, because it would mean that I have to spend a day on the one thing, a day on the other thing, a day on the other thing, and then you couldn't be regularly uploading with the type of system I'd set up for myself. So I was contemplating doing some kind of change as it was getting towards like mid 2022. But in 2022, as few people that are close to me will know, there was something that happened that kind of halted a lot of things. So back in 2021, my stepmom was diagnosed with cancer. I remember when my dad rang me, I think I was playing Phasmophobia with a couple of friends at the time, and I went to take the call, and I was like, "Oh yeah, is everything all good?" And he was like, "It's not great," and then explained what was going on. And I was thinking at the time that it was something to do with the cat, but he was like, "No, the stepmom's got this, and they're looking into it at the moment, but it's looking like we might be able to sort it out." And as the months went past in 2021, it became more of, okay, we found another thing, and there's potentially another thing, and we might not be able to do what we were thinking originally because of this and this and this. And it was starting to not look as good. And suddenly everything became like, oh, is this now the last time for stuff? I remember as it got to Christmas 2021, it was starting to be a bit stressful, but not overwhelmingly stressful. I spent Christmas that year with my stepmom's sister and her side of the family. And a lot of the time when it came to Christmases, it was, oh yeah, this present is from your dad and me, and it was a collective present. And when it came to 2021, there was, oh, this is from me. As in, stepmom was giving me stuff. And it wasn't stuff that was connected to my dad. It was something that she had decided to get for me, and she got it for every single person that was in the room as well. And that was quite an emotional moment, because it's like, oh, I can see why you're doing this. And then I remember as it got to New Year's going into 2022, we'd stay overnight at her other sister's house, and then we'd celebrate the new year as a family. And there are a lot of like last times that I don't think we even really knew were last times until looking back at it. I remember around the start of 2022, my stepmom was having a conversation with me at my dad's, and she was saying, "Oh, my hand doesn't quite feel right. Something's up, but I don't know what it is." And she could tell that her speech was getting slightly worse as well. But at the same time, that can also be down to the type of medication and everything she was on to do with the cancer. So now it gets to May 2022. I think it was either April or May 2022. And I go around to my dad's like 3 times a week at the time. So I went round on the one day, and he was in the back garden, so I went round the side to go say hi to him. And he was saying that they've got some news back from the doctors about specific things that were going on, and that it isn't good. So they were saying that her movement and her speech, all of that type of thing, is down to something called MND. And if you don't know what MND is, it stands for motor neuron disease. It's basically something that will attack your movement, it will attack your speech. It'll basically mean that you eventually can't move or do anything on your own, but it doesn't attack the brain though, so you're still you. It's just that your body's giving up on you. So eventually this just slight thing with her hand and her speech and all of this is going to turn into, she won't be able to move at all. She won't be able to eat on her own. She won't be able to swallow because her muscles won't work. She won't be able to go to the toilet on her own. She won't be able to do anything that a person can do, but she will still be her in her body. And at the time, they didn't know what timeline there was with stuff, but they knew that it was something that had been in the background for a couple of years, I think my dad had said to me, but they hadn't been able to pick it up. And now it's at a point where it's like just all the way down, just as quick as you can think about it. If it's caught at the right time, I'm pretty sure there are ways that you can delay it. I don't think there's a way you can cure it though. So from May to July of 2022, the decrease was massive. There were things that were put in place to help her, but she was deteriorating so quickly that they were struggling to keep up with the rate that she was deteriorating. At the time, my dad was tackling his full-time job, which is quite often quite a lot of hours, and then he'd get home and he'd have to look after my stepmom, and he did have help from people, but not the whole time. So he'd only be getting like a few hours sleep a night. Whenever it was time to go around to my dad's at any point during the week, I'd try and help with as much as I could. Granted, I had no idea what some of the stuff were, but I was starting to learn it over time. And there was a lot that I think was chucked at my dad that he had to learn really quickly. A lot of people were starting to not understand what she was saying, so she'd got a notepad that she would try and write down words or sentences, or even if it was just like one specific word to get across that this is what I'm trying to say. And I'd say that I was probably one of the last people to be able to understand what she was saying. So I remember the one time, it must have been in June or maybe early July. I think it might have been early July. She had one of her friends over and she was just having a just normal back and forth conversation with her. And there was a few things that her friend didn't know what she was saying, and I'd say, oh no, she's saying this and this and this, and explain it. I was kind of like the middleman between the conversation at the times. I remember her saying, oh, I need you round more often, because I'm guessing it was happening to quite a few people and I wasn't always there to be able to explain what was being said. But yeah, going into July, especially towards mid-July, it was starting to get really tough. They were talking about moving her into a care home, but she didn't want to move into a care home because she wanted to just be at home. There were people that were coming in just constantly throughout the day looking after her and trying to go through all the different processes that needed to be done during the day and all of that kind of thing. And I think that it would have got to the point where she'll have needed to go into a home, but it was such a quick downhill situation that it didn't even get to that point. So my birthday was on the Tuesday that year. For people who don't know, my birthday's on the 19th of July. We'd had everyone round at my dad's house. It was originally going to be round at my stepmom's sister's house, but then because she couldn't really actually get there, it's just that everyone started coming to my dad's instead. It was either on my birthday, so on the Tuesday, or it was the Saturday beforehand. I think it was the Saturday beforehand that everyone came round. So yeah, my birthday was on the Tuesday, and I went round and saw her as per usual. And then it got to the Thursday, so the 21st, and suddenly it was like a ton of stuff was kicking off. When I came in, there was some kind of doctor that was there, and they were basically saying, yeah, we probably need to get her to a home as soon as possible because it's starting to become unmanageable in a way. And they'd put her on really strong meds to the point that I don't know what she could and couldn't properly understand, because her body had given up on her by this point pretty much fully. And she was on such strong medication that she was just sleeping a lot, and she would kind of mumble a bit, and you didn't really know what was going on. The Thursday was somewhat better than a few days later, because I'd gone round on, I think it was the Saturday, so yeah, the Saturday, so that would be the 23rd. I remember on the Saturday I stayed overnight, and for a lot of the night I was just sat downstairs, because she wouldn't be in a bed, she would be sat in like a reclining chair, just downstairs in the lounge. So I was sat just on the floor next to the settee, just in case anything happened. And my dad was slept on the settee that I was leaning against, and then my stepmom's sister was on a bed that she used to use when she could still be a bit more mobile. I remember on that Saturday night, there was a moment where both my stepmom's sister and my dad were asleep, but my stepmom was mumbling something, and she kind of like looked towards my direction a little bit, but I couldn't tell if she was awake. I couldn't tell if she was trying to say something to me. So I was just kind of hoping that it wasn't that she needed a hand with something, because I had no idea what she was actually saying to me. Or if she was even saying anything, it could have been just that she was mumbling in her sleep. So I'd come down on the Sunday morning, and it was pretty much exactly the same. There wasn't really much change at all, and she was still very tired. And I was going to my nan's for lunch on that day, because at the time I'd go around to my nan's every Sunday for lunch. So I was saying bye to everyone, and I said bye to my stepmom and said, I'll see you on Tuesday, because that was the next time that I was going to be around at my dad's. And later on that Sunday night, I was back at home. I think I was just about to start recording something, but I wasn't really in the mood to edit it though. So I think it must have been a reaction one that I was going to do, because I remembered the reaction vids back then. They'd started to look like I was depressed, because the only people that knew about this at the time were family and one of my friends. I hadn't said to George at the time that any of this was going on, but I could tell from videos I was making around that time that I just didn't look as happy. So it would have been around 7 o'clock on the Sunday, so on the 24th, and my dad rings me, and I'm like, oh, hi, you okay, what's up? And when I said to him that, like, if he was okay, he was like, not really, and then explained that my stepmom had passed away at, I think it would have been around 5:30. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I need to get round to my dad's. Luckily, my dad just lives like a 10-minute walk away, so I started going around pretty much as soon as I heard about it. On the way there, I'd rang originally my mom, but she didn't answer. Then I rang my nan and explained to her what was going on, and then my mom rang back afterwards, and I remember her saying that I was very calm considering what I'd just been told, essentially. And it was because I wasn't really thinking about me. I was thinking I need to get round to my dad's to see what's going on and to make sure that I'm there for them as well. And I think that, like, as I was going into the house, then it kind of hit me a bit, and it was really weird because there was always some kind of sound going on, and it was just completely silent. And as it went into the next few hours and days and weeks and even months, to be honest, that messed me up quite a bit on and off. Not always. I'd be able to just be me sometimes, but then other times I'd just find myself just like staring into nothing. I've heard that apparently if that happens, it's actually a good thing in a way, because it's kind of your body forcing you to just stop for a second and process stuff. In terms of uploads, it had pretty much just all halted. There was no reaction stuff. There was maybe one gaming thing from something I'd already recorded beforehand and already edited. I was still doing the FIFA simulated matches at the time, but again, that was stuff that was already recorded. I wasn't doing anything new. I was literally just pressing upload. And when it got to September 2022, I had quite a big panic attack. The closest thing I can describe it to is what I can imagine a stroke feels like, but it's not a stroke. It was like someone was just like tapping my face like this the whole time. All I could hear was just like ringing in my ears, just like just like a Hoover. I was at my desk at the time when I was having some kind of attack, whatever it actually was. I remember I lay my face just like this on the desk, and I was just kind of letting myself just feel all of the emotions. And then I went to get back up, and everything just felt so heavy. Like I struggled to get my head back up. It was like I was glued to my desk. Once I managed to get up, I felt like I was just going to collapse, because just, there was so much, by this point, it wasn't just my face that was like that tapping feeling, it was my whole body. I tried kind of like talking myself out of it, like actually talking to myself, and my voice was deeper, which was really weird. Like I was trying to convince myself to get out of this situation because I could feel that it was not good. And when I spoke, my voice was like it was lower than it should have been, and I had no idea what was going on. The muscles in my cheeks weren't moving. That's why I said it's kind of like a stroke, but not a stroke, because like my face was like droopy. It wasn't just like on the one side though, it was just my face in general. I remember I managed to get up and go up the stairs, and I wanted to look at what I looked like in the mirror. So by this point, I'm kind of panicking a bit, even more than I already was, like general panic, because I'm thinking this is not good. So when I look in the mirror, I try and get myself to smile, and I couldn't smile. It was like my face was being pulled down. I really wish that I'd taken a picture of it at the time. If I wasn't panicking so much, I probably would have, because it was really weird. Like, you're telling your brain, yes, I know I'm smiling, but seeing that I am not smiling. After that point, I'd come back downstairs and I was just sat on the settee. I was just trying to, like, calm down, take deep breaths, try and just slow everything down. And luckily, after about 10 minutes or so, it did start to wear off. And then I had a massive headache. From that point onwards, I started getting twitches around my eyelid, sometimes around my cheek. I think I've even had them up here before. I still get the twitches in my eyelids. I've actually had them during this recording, but I know the reason for them, and it's because basically I got them because I was stressed, and I'm getting them now because I'm talking about it. I also get it sometimes when I haven't slept much as well. That can be a major thing. But sometimes these twitches, they wouldn't just be a few times a day. Heading towards Christmas, I was getting them like hundreds of times a day. I'd be working and it would be just like, ooh, you, just the whole time. But eventually, going into 2023, I'd say from like somewhere in the first quarter of 2023 until towards the end of 2023, it started to get a bit better. I felt like I was starting to be happier again. And as it got towards the summer, it felt like every single bit of anxiety and stress that I ever had just disappeared, which is something that even before the whole situation with my stepmom, there would still be stress every now and again, but it just felt like I just had no problems. Unfortunately, that didn't last for long though, because as it went towards the end of 2023, then I started getting all of the anxiety and the stressing and the twitching, and just everything suddenly hit me all in one go. And it felt like it was hitting me harder than it did in 2022, which is weird because you would think after my stepmom died, that would be the main just downhill bit, but it wasn't. It was actually the year after that everything hit me more. In autumn 2023 up until the start of 2024, I'll say around Christmas 2023 actually, it felt like I was on like a reset. It felt like I'd been up on a high, and that was the start of a new chapter, but it was actually that high was the end of the old chapter, and it felt like I was kind of turning into something else. I know that's going to start sounding kind of like spiritual and all of that, and I don't really always believe in that kind of thing, but it did feel like a reset. And that was when I started getting like the rings and stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen that I wear this. It's kind of symbolizing the new version of me. And I've got these. I did used to have 3 on. I got this one that I bought, would have been around October or November in 2023. And then this one was one that my dad gave me in 2024. the one that I had with this originally broke, so that was a yikes. And I've also got this one, which is, I don't wear them so much anymore, but this one's got like a little spinny middle bit to it. I don't know if my camera will be able to show that much, but yeah. So that one symbolizes my stepmom. And then I've got these two. I've got the snake one and the just thicker one with a bit of patterns on it. And that's like the old me and people that kind of kept me down in life. So I always keep those on my desk. I don't always wear them, but they are always there. This one I'll always wear. I don't think I've ever gone a day without wearing this one since 2023. So as I was starting to look at the world differently as it got to the end of 2023, I started like appreciating the smaller things and the things that people don't tend to notice on like day-to-day basis. Like I just find myself walking back from work just kind of staring at the trees and the stars and watching the cars go past and just taking everything in that people take for granted. I feel like in a way that period of time that was like the reset period was actually one of the best parts of my life in a way, because it just felt so different. It felt like I was viewing everything for the first time again. It was weird. It didn't feel forceful. That was like, oh, I need to look at this. I need to do this. It was, oh, wow, would you look at that? And look at this. And just, it was organic. It wasn't forced. So now that I was building myself back up again, I was also deciding where I wanted to go forward with YouTube. I decided I'm not tackling 4 channels because that is stupid. So I moved all of the shorts content over to the gaming and potentially reacts channel. It might have just been the gaming channel that I moved it to, and then got rid of that shorts channel. The reacts and the FIFA channel, they soon became just archive channels, and you'll see that it's got all the old content on it, apart from the 2015 content that I deleted. So going into 2024, my whole focus was on this channel. If I wanted to do reacts content, I would do it on this channel. If I wanted to do gaming content, I would do it on this channel. It would all be in one place because there wasn't a point to spread it out. If I want to show people the kind of content that I want to make, I want it to be all in one place. I don't want them to have to go searching for it. By this point, George had already started his channel and it was starting to skyrocket. He'd started it during my whole stress and twitchy eye era. He was able to put in that time and the effort, and it was clear that it was paying off. From a content point of view, I think 2024 was probably the best year that I've had. And something that I didn't expect to happen was getting a Discord server. It was something that I made back in 2020 and it was linked to my YouTube, but I didn't think people would ever actually click it. And around midway, actually no, it would have been the first quarter of 2024. I think some people even joined in 2023. People were just appearing because they clicked on the link and they were like, oh, this is a Lava Dragon and GrogTV Discord server. At the time, it really wasn't. It was just something that was meant for friends, but I just happened to have it linked to my YouTube. So then it was kind of learning how Discord servers work for a bit as well, and turning what is now, I'd say, quite a nice looking Discord server, turning it into that. Because at the time, it was a mess. I wanted to try and make it into a place that was for people to feel like they could just be themselves and not feel like there's going to be people causing problems all the time. You're always going to get some people like that, and there are definitely some people that are like that, but it's now kind of on me to try and run that in a way that people feel is a good place to be. So from a content standpoint, I think 2024 was very much building the foundation for what hopefully can be massive in a year or two. Towards the end of 2024 and going into this year, George had said to me that he isn't going to record any more My Summer Car related stuff. So I said to him, okay, well, if I create a bit of a story just ending what we'd started, hopefully that's something that people will want to see. And he was like, oh yeah, that actually sounds pretty cool. So I'd started working on a script and a storyline and where we can go with stuff. And I'd already planted seeds to stuff in previous uploads, but just didn't know at what point I was going to use them. And it very much felt like when I was a little kid back in primary school and we'd make stories and just have fun with it. So the first episode was done by end of February, I think. But then as it got to the episodes with George in it, it then took a bit longer to get stuff done because I'd need like voice lines and all this, just that kind of thing. And sometimes it would be that I get them back quite quickly. Other times it would be I don't get them back at all and I need to ask him again. But then it becomes more of a thing of like, I don't want to keep prying for voice lines with something that maybe they're not as interested as they thought they were with it. So the plan was to get it all done by summer this year. Well, it is now autumn, I think. I think it's autumn now. I don't actually know when autumn starts, but I'm going to say it's autumn now. And there's only been 2 episodes out of the 5 that I have scripted and got ready in a way. I've done everything on my end that I can do for the moment, but I'm not going to... How do I word this? I'm not gonna keep persisting with voice lines and stuff like that. I'm going to let it be more natural, and when George wants to do it, he wants to do it, because I don't want it to be a burden that, oh, he's asking for this again, he's doing this again, and this and this and this, because then it's not as fun. So yes, there are 3 more episodes that I would like to have out, but when they're actually going to come out, I have no idea, and I'm not gonna stress myself over stuff that doesn't need to be stressed over. I want to make sure that it's having fun with things first over anything else, because if you're not having fun with something, why do it? So now it brings me on to where we are now, which is September 2025, and this is why I need your help. So for reference, since 2021, I have been working in a place that I won't name because I do not want to out myself as to whereabouts I live. But going into this year, I kind of had the feeling of wanting to move on to something else. I kind of walked into this year saying, yeah, this is my last year at the company. There was a few things that I wasn't too happy with, but it was also just that it felt like the right time to go. So as I'm recording this is September 1st, and yesterday was my last day at the place that I worked. Well, I say yesterday, it was technically 2 days ago, but I'll say yesterday. So I've decided to take quite a big risk, but I'm hoping eventually it'll pay off. I'm going to give myself until December 31st next year to just do content. When it gets to December 31st next year, that's kind of going to be like a point where I see if this is actually something that's working or if it's not working and I just need to go back to doing a different job. So it's now up to me to put in the time and put in the effort and to make sure that I'm making something that people want to watch. It might not be that every upload is something that you enjoy, and it might be that the majority of people by this point in this video have gone because it's going to be a long video. But this is me putting all my cards on the table, basically saying that I can't do what I want to do without you guys. So over the next year, feel free to tell me anything, ask me anything, just be real with me and I'll try and be real with you. And if by the end of next year it's not working, then we'll just say fair enough. At least I gave it a go, because I would rather live my life knowing that I gave it a go rather than just being stuck in a job and then wondering if I should have given it a go. And if it does work, then we're here. If by the end of next year it is working perfectly, or it's looking like it's gonna be working perfectly pretty soon, then we'll be here all the time. You'll probably notice that there are a few videos that are currently members only. They're ones that are going to be going out throughout the next few days anyway. However, if you wanted to watch them early, that is completely up to you. I want to prove to myself and prove to you and prove to anyone else that's doubting or that isn't sure, or even people that support me, that if you put your time into something and if you dedicate yourself to what you want to do, that it pays off, because that means you can do anything. And who knows, maybe I'm delusional, but I would rather be delusional than just stuck in one place. So yeah, this is the start of a new journey, I guess. I want to try and be an inspiration if I can. If you get told that you can't do something, or that you shouldn't do something, or that it's never going to work, why would you even attempt it? That's then on you to prove them wrong. The only person that's stopping you from getting to where you want to be is you. And yes, this journey is going to be a very long journey, I fear, but this is going to be exactly what I want to do. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow with the regular uploads. And of course I need to do the outro, the proper outro. So with that being said, see you, fool!
Jumping.